Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday night. It is 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. You might be wondering, why are these goofballs on my screen? That is because it is the second round of the 2022 NFL Draft. If you don't know, this is Jawing and Balling. I'm Joe McDonald. That is Aman Patel. Aman, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. First day of the draft was very intriguing. A lot of great picks, and I think that we should see a lot more here in day two.
Well, I'm sure we're going to cover some of the first round picks because they obviously correlate to the second round picks and why some of the teams have it. But let's go over some of the second round here. I'm actually going to share the screen here of the yeah. All right, let's get the draft cast up here because in case you didn't know, that should work. There it goes. Yeah, you can zoom in there and see some of the picks of the second round so far. I tell you, it's early. We're only at pick 18 of the second round. The New England Patriots just made their selection. But of the second round picks so far, what are some that have stood out to you? Because we only saw one quarterback go in the first round. We've seen linebackers on the board still that we thought were maybe first rounders. What has surprised you so far?
I don't know about surprising, but I think a good pick for me was Christian Watson for the Green Bay Packers, getting a receiver up top in the draft in day two. Look, I think all Green Bay Packers fans were upset they didn't get a receiver, and people were going to have to look at Christian Watson because of his explosiveness down the field, don't have that down the field threat after losing MVS and Devontae Adams. I thought that pick to me was very good. Also, the Jets picking up Breece Hall. I just love what the Jets have done with this draft. You go and add another back alongside Michael Carter, make Zach Wilson's life a little bit easier. I love what the Jets are doing here in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, 4 picks in the first 36, and you're going to walk away with basically, it really is nuts when you figure there's 22 players on a field. You get 4 guys who presumably are going to get, not necessarily starts, but playing time. That's a huge haul. No doubt about that. Some of the names that kind of popped out, the Bears taking Kyler Gordon, the safety at the 7th pick. We thought maybe that was a late first rounder. The Bears have not selected an offensive player, even though Justin Fields, their first round quarterback from last year, nothing yet to really help him. Seattle double dipping back to back outside linebacker Boye Mafe from Minnesota and Ken Walker III, the Heisman Trophy finalist from Michigan State. What do you think of those picks for Seattle and what Seattle's done so far?
I think they understand that this is not a team that's going to win throwing the football down the field, right? You still have DK Metcalf, you still have Tyler Lockett, but you have Drew Lock as your quarterback right now, unless you go and get somebody maybe in the third round. So now you're looking at it, say, okay, we're going to go run the ball. You pick up a Kenneth Walker. That's great. And then you go pick up an edge guy. It's a classic Seattle pick, right? Go get an edge guy who's quick, who's fast, and can be a little bit versatile. And that's what Boye Mafe can be out of Minnesota.
Absolutely. A few of the names we need to touch on here because a lot of people had first round grades on them. We had it in our mock draft, and a lot of analysts thought so. Andrew Booth Jr., the cornerback from Clemson, going 42nd overall to Minnesota. We talked about Minnesota taking a corner earlier, a safety earlier in the mock drafts, just because they need help on the defensive side of the ball. The way the draft went didn't really lend themselves. I mean, they could have taken Kyle Hamilton, obviously, but they didn't feel that he was a fit. They traded back, of course, with Detroit, and waited to 32. So that was a different scenario. John Mechie III, the talented wide receiver from Alabama, going to the Texans. What do you think of the Texans so far? And that again, like we thought that Sauce Gardner was the number 1 cornerback in the draft. They took another guy. So what do you think of them so far?
I think they're getting guys that fit kind of their scheme. I think Derek Stingley fits what Lovie Smith does a little bit more than Sauce Gardner does in terms of what he does in the cover 2. But they go and they get themselves a receiver, and it feels like they're saying, okay, Davis, here's your opportunity. And if you're not the guy, we're going to be ready for the next guy, which is, I think, an approach that's refreshing almost, that they're not trying to go and force somebody to be the guy. They're saying, look, whoever's going to be our guy, we're going to be ready. Almost a Denver Broncos approach. I just saw the Patriots pick.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Let's cover some of this other stuff. Another pick. We back-to-back guys who were injured but have a lot of upside. Definitely first rounders if they stay healthy. The Ravens doing what the Ravens do, getting a talented outside linebacker slash pass rusher with David Ojabo from Michigan. A lot of people think that he actually might be better than Aiden Hutchinson. Some people really do believe that. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether it be right or wrong. But to get that guy at 45 overall when you're Baltimore, that's a steal. I love what Baltimore has done in this draft.
Oh, I think Baltimore is one of the better teams in the draft always. I think they have this philosophy kind of drafting the best player available. And I think at this point, everyone had it before the ACL that he's a top 15 pick, and that's going to be the guy, the next pass rusher off the board. And for him to fall and sit there, and if you're Baltimore, you're a team, again, predicated on defense. You've always had that really tenacious defense. You go get, I believe they drafted Kyle Hamilton in the first round. So now you get a pair of the young pass rusher, in year 2 with Kyle Hamilton, who will have a year to kind of develop himself. I love it for Baltimore.
Exactly. I do. All right, let's get to our favorite team, because just as we were coming on, our team, the New England Patriots, selected a wide receiver, something that everybody wanted the Patriots to do. They go and get Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver out of Baylor. If you don't know him, he ran a 4.21 in the 40. He's a bigger wide receiver. He's 6'2", 181 pounds. He was projected as a mid-round pick, but as we've seen with the New England Patriots, they don't care what your projections say. They get the guys they want. We saw this offense evolve last year. We've seen the run game. We saw what they did in the first round with the guard slash center in Strange, but we also saw Kendrick Bourne establish himself as a really, really good receiver. Nelson Aguilar struggled to get going. Johnny Smith struggled to get going. Hunter Henry had a really great half of a season. But now you add in Tyquan Thornton, and what do you see the Patriots doing with this? Because, again, this guy is a burner that they haven't had in a long time.
Yeah. I think this is kind of a pick that was very different. It feels like a foil to N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry was, 6'1", but he was going to make the catches in traffic. And that's what he did in college. This is a guy who's going to go down the field. He's going to get them some yard burst down the field. And you pair him with Devontae Parker, I think now you get two predominantly outside receivers. I think for Mac Jones, it now makes life a lot easier because you're going to have the outsides pretty much locked up with those two. Now you can have Kendrick Bourne kind of play in the slot, play in the middle with Jacoby Myers and let them negotiate space with Hunter Henry. I think it's just going to create options for Mac Jones. I think that's what you're looking for. In year 2 for Mac, it's all about, can he get to the next level? There was something there his rookie year. Can he continue to convert? Getting this guy with a downfield threat, at least pulling the safety back. So if you want to play predominantly run, as soon as they pull that safety in and say, Tyquan, go down the field, this is your opportunity to develop that play action pass with Mac Jones.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, this offense needs to have different identities because Josh McDaniels is gone and we don't know who the offensive play caller is going to be. He said they might even have coordinators this year, but basically they can't be one-dimensional. In an AFC that looks like most of the teams are one-dimensional in their quarterback play and their passing offenses, the New England Patriots, like they normally do, they zig when other teams zag and they zag when other teams zig. So right now, they've got a running game that they'd really like to establish, and they're going to have receiving threats everywhere. So they can get into different formations so they can basically win in the margins. That's what New England has been doing for 20 plus years, is winning in the margins. So when you have a 6'2" wide receiver who runs fast and is going to have a struggle to obviously learn the playbook like a lot of rookie receivers have there, if he can give you one element that you don't have, even if it's part-time, that's a huge deal. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Again, we and you saw firsthand the Patriots offense at times felt stagnant. You're saying, can we just get the ball down the field? We know Mac Jones isn't that guy a lot of the time. We don't need him to be a lot of the time. It's just one time. And can we get him an actual receiver to get down the field? Last year, you lacked that. So teams would start sinking in on the run, daring Mac to throw. And to Mac's credit, he was able to make some big-time throws, but you just didn't have the weapons around him to push the ball down the field. Here you go. Now's your opportunity with Tyquan Thornton.
Absolutely. And again, it's another part of their offense. We'll see what happens. And the one thing that Bill Belichick likes to have is pieces on the board, chess pieces on the board. Not everybody can be a queen. You need to have some pawns, you need to have some bishops, you need to have some rooks. Me, real quick, looking at this guy, looking at his size, looking at his speed, I think of him like a knight. He's a little bit different than what they normally have, but I think he's going to be an asset.
Yeah.
The biggest story so far is easily the players that haven't been drafted. We're done with the first round. Well, like I said, we're going to touch on some of that, I'm sure. We're going to try and keep you updated here. But it's the players that are still available that I think everybody is wondering about. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Malik Willis. That's the name's going to continue to get thrown around.
Wait,
why is he not
I got
gone?
the list up right here.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sure Joe's going to tell you all about it. But yeah, that's going to be the conversation. Why are they not picked? We talked about in the group chat all last night. Where's Jermaine Johnson? Why is he not getting picked? So the conversation is going to be who's not getting picked in this deep class where there's a lot of guys. Why is this one guy not getting selected? That's going to be the conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's really a handful of them right now. I mean, Nakobe Dean, again, a guy a lot of people projected as an easy top 20 pick. Like, just pencil him in. He's a top 20 pick. I understand he's a little undersized. You're looking at the ESPN profile. He's 5'11", 229. He played on that Georgia defense. We did see Quay Walker go ahead of him, who was his linebacker teammate, So a lot of people liked him coming up. Malik Willis, I mean, let's have the conversation. Because we didn't have it last night. At least we weren't on a show where we got to talk about it last night other than the chat. Looks like we had another pick come in. Alec Pierce goes to – wait, that might be best. No, what is that?
So Cam Jurgens went to the Eagles at a center from Nebraska, and then George Pickens went number 20 to Pittsburgh, the wide receiver from Georgia.
Oh, okay. Well, Pittsburgh loves drafting wide receivers. But let's
and then Alec Pierce, as you said, a wide receiver, went to Indianapolis.
Okay. So let's have the discussion about Malik Willis and quarterbacks in general, because we had one quarterback go in the first round. That was Kenny Pickett going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the hometown kid staying, same as they did with James Conner, just in a different round. Let's talk about Pickett first. What did you think of the Pittsburgh selection of Pickett? Because this is 2 years in a row. I brought this up to somebody at work today. This is 2 years in a row where basically early on in the process, there was at least a position or a player mocked to Pittsburgh, and it basically stayed that way the last month. Is there just something about Pittsburgh kind of giving their hand away, or is it just this is who they like? But what do you think of that, and what do you think of Pickett being the one and only quarterback taken so far?
I think the question about, is Pittsburgh giving their hand away? I think Pittsburgh is usually so solid of a team that they're kind of just one piece away. Really, when you look at Pittsburgh, what are they struggling with? Okay, they're struggling offensively. Where were they struggling? At quarterback. So I think we all kind of figured if a quarterback is there, they probably take it. So I think for them, it's because their defense is already there. The offensive line is usually intact. They usually have just one or two holes. And for those teams, it's kind of easy. Like, we all knew Kansas City was probably going to go and get a defensive player, whether it was corner or defensive end, because they have all those holes. So I think it's that kind of issue for Pittsburgh. The pick of Kenny Pickett, when I first saw it, to me, it felt like it was a retribution for what they did to Dan Marino in 1983. Dan Marino went to the University of Pittsburgh, was not selected by the Pittsburgh Steelers. They passed up on him, and he goes on to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I know that's a lame thing to say, but that's just what it felt like. I don't know, because I don't see where Kenny Pickett in 3 years has an opportunity to be better than Malik Willis in 3 years. Day one, Kenny Pickett's going to be better, but to me, you just signed your day one starter, Mitch Trubisky. Get a guy you can develop. And I think in 3 years, we'll look back, and I think Malik Willis will end up looking better than Kenny Pickett. I don't know how much better that ends up being, but just to me, I don't see the progression for Kenny Pickett in 3 years.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about Kenny Pickett in this quarterback class, the same way I feel about Aiden Hutchinson with the DNs. I feel like he's closer to his ceiling now than all the other guys. And maybe that makes him a decent pro, but I would rather still gamble on the upside. Like, I'm sorry, there's a reason that Hutchinson didn't go one. I mean, Detroit loved him. He's a hometown kid. I get all that, and that's fine. But when I look at Aiden Hutchinson, I'm like, what can he do elite? What can he do better at the next level than what he did at college? I think there's some mystique with Trayvon Walker. There's some mystique with Kayvon Thibodeau, who a lot of people thought was the best pure pass rusher. One guy goes ahead of him, one guy goes behind him. With Pickett, I kind of feel the same way. Like, what is he great at? Like, is he the most accurate quarterback in college football like Baker Mayfield was? No. Can he throw the ball 65, 70, 75 yards down the field like Malik Willis? No. Is he like super athletic and dangerous on the run? I mean, isn't Desmond Ridder a little bit better? Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, he's good at some stuff, but what's he great at? And to me, if you're Pittsburgh and you go out and you sign Mitch Trubisky to a 2-year deal, who is just, he's got to be going beside himself for two different reasons. Number one, because of the death of his teammate in Dwayne Haskins, where he's just like, holy crap, this is terrible and unfortunate. And now to fill the quarterback room, we take a first-round quarterback. Like, we know what that means for veterans. Like, even if he doesn't start day one, we know the writing's on the wall. But again, I didn't like the Pickett pick, and yet here we are still at pick number, what are we on now? Second round pick 30.
54. Oh, yeah. Oh, 30. Jeez, my thing.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. No. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, 54. And, here we are, and no other quarterbacks are taken. Yeah. Seattle didn't take one, who a lot of people thought. Houston hasn't taken one. Amon, we need to figure this out. Where is Malik Willis going? Because we can let's look here at the big board. Hold on now. Yeah, second round. Let's look at some of the picks coming up. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, Cameron Jurgens, George Pickens, Alec Pierce. The Chiefs are on the clock. I mean, the next couple teams here, let's look at them. We have Arizona, we have Dallas, we have Buffalo, we have the Falcons. I mean, maybe that's
your first chance. That's your first
Minnesota, chance. That's a chance.
Yep.
We have Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Kansas City, the Bengals, the Broncos. I mean, really, if he gets past Atlanta and Minnesota, we could see another fall.
Yeah. For me, I think the fall happens because I was like, okay, I was trying to figure out who's the better of the two prospects. And for me, I think the floor for Malik Willis is a lot lower than what we thought. The floor, to me, when I look at it, he's a guy who he has a great arm, but I'm not sure he uses it quite well in the sense that I don't think he puts the ball in great spots. I know you can teach it and work on it and develop it, but then, okay, it's like, okay, he can use his mobility, the RPO action, right? He can do things like that. He's more of a powerful runner. He's not going to run by you. He's going to run over you. And to me, I think that he's starting to – the more you watch Malik Willis, the less convinced you are. Now, I still would have taken him over Kenny Pickett. I just think Kenny Pickett now seemed like the safer choice of the two. Malik Willis, I think, has a lot more, where his ceiling is still, that Josh Allen type of ceiling, but his floor is so low that now teams are saying, I don't know if I can make that jump.
Yeah, and Devin, thank you, Devin, for tuning in. I didn't like the Pickett pick either. I'm not sure there are a lot of people who did. I mean, it was one of those where you're like, okay, but again, like, it's the 20th overall pick. Shouldn't I feel a little excited? Yeah. Even like, oh man, this guard, he's going to run people over. Oh man, this wide receiver, he's going to burn past people. It's like, hey, there's Kenny Pickett. He's going to fake slide. Oh no, that doesn't work in the NFL because they'll kill you. I mean, I kind of feel like Malik Willis is the Dollar Tree version of Josh Allen, but smaller. Like, they put him in a garbage compactor and like they just shrunk him and everything. It's like, yeah, he's got a big giant arm and he can run over people. Well, that sounds like Josh Allen, but he's nowhere near Josh Allen's size. Let's look at a couple of these other players. A lot of people thought Sky Moore, the wide receiver from Western Michigan, would be gone at this.
Just got taken Kansas City.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Breaking news. Kansas City just took him. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean,
he's just on my list for best available stuff.
Unbelievable.
So what do you think of that? Because I think Sky Moore was somebody that you were really high on.
Yeah, I like Sky Moore. He's a little bit different than all the other receivers in there. He's a little bit more crafty, a little bit more on the route running. He feels like a genuine slot receiver, and he's going to be an intermediate guy. And when you're a team like Kansas City, you say, yeah, we could use a genuine intermediate guy, a guy that can be a security blanket for Patrick Mahomes like Travis Kelce is. And I think he does have enough speed to get over the top. I thought New England would have considered taking him just because he felt like a very New England-y player. Again, play inside, very quick, hands catches, very smart with his routes. I think Kansas City got themselves a good one. Again, it's a different type of receiver than what they normally have, and I think that's what they're looking for, to get a little bit more diversity in that type of receiver room.
Yeah, 5'10", 195 is what ESPN has him listed at. So he's not like he's short, but he's not like a small receiver. He's going to be thick. And if there's one thing that, if you haven't been paying attention this offseason, It's that Kansas City has gotten some thicker receivers. They are going
Mhm.
to try and run the ball. They invested a first-round pick in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They know that they can't throw the ball. We saw it with Tampa Bay last year. You can't just ignore the run and expect to go far. You have to establish the run. And I think that's something Kansas City, the second year of their offensive line being together with Patrick Mahomes, who, don't forget, last year had that toe injury from the offseason surgery. I think that they're really going to try and establish a run game better this year than they did the last year. I want to talk about a few more players that are available, unless, of course, they've been picked. Somebody who's been rising up draft boards, kind of a terrible college team, but he himself stood out. Travis Jones, the defensive tackle from Uconn.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on him? Because I heard everything from he could be a late first-round pick. He could be one of the first 10 to go in the second round. What do you think of him as a prospect? Where do you think he makes sense?
I think there's a lot of different spots. I think if you look at Buffalo, who are on the clock right now, to me, that looks like a situation they could fit. Dallas could fit them because I think you can see the upside being top 10 or not top 10, excuse me, first round. But then you see there's just flaws when you watch the tape. Sometimes the hands aren't there. Sometimes the speed is lacking. You're wondering, can he put everything together? That's what you're just waiting for. And that's a big question. So I think if you're a team like Minnesota, if you're a team like Buffalo, I think Buffalo to me makes a lot of sense. You're a team that can develop. You have Von Miller and you have Sean McDermott. If you need guys who can go and develop him, to me, that's the combination I would want. Will he fall out of the second round? He could. He very well could, but he has the talent. It's just, can he get everything consistently going?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I really do. Wow, our first tight end went off the board. Trey McBride, the Arizona Cardinals take the tight end out of Colorado State. What do you think of that one? And actually, Dallas is on the clock right now at 56 overall. So what do you think of Trey McBride? That was, I believe, Tony had him going late in the first in our mock.
Yes, he did. Yep.
What do you think? Because let's not forget, they traded for a tight end last year. And Zach Ertz, and I believe gave him an extension this year.
Yes, they did.
So, I mean, they're really just, maybe they're a team that's trying not to run the ball. Maybe, I mean, I know they did re-sign James Conner, but like, we saw the acquisition of Hollywood Brown. We know DeAndre Hopkins is supposed to be back. AJ Green signed a 1-year deal. They've still got some wide receivers, Rondale Moore, Andy Isabella on the team. Now you take Trey McBride in the second round. What do you think Arizona's doing here?
I think Arizona's trying to get themselves, to be honest, I think it gives them more of an opportunity to run the ball out of similar sets. Because now you can run two tight ends, and both these tight ends can catch. And I think Trey McBride is a better blocker than is advertised. I think he'll be very decent enough in the run blocking scheme. Also, they throw to James Conner a lot. So now you can see a lot of two tight ends, a running back, and you can go two receivers, whether that's D-Hop or Hollywood Brown, whatever combination you want, you can run things like that and get teams in hurry up. And now it's hard to match up. What do you put on the field? Do you go all safeties? Because then now, okay, James Conner, we're handing you the ball. Okay, now you go linebackers. Okay, we're going to throw it over you. So I think now it's, okay, can we play the mind games? I think you're going to see more levels of that Arizona offense come out in the third year of the head coach quarterback combination. You continue to add another Swiss Army knife here. I think you're going to see a lot of two tight end sets, a lot of one running backs in James Conner, and then two receivers. And then they're going to say, all right, RPO, you tell me, defense, tell me what I want to run.
Yeah, the Cowboys did make a selection, outside linebacker from Ole Miss, Sam Williams. Big kid, 6'4", 261, maybe a little on the lighter side, but, tall outside like that. What do you think of that for the Cowboys? Again, a lot of people thought maybe you take somebody like Nakobe Dean, who playing next to Micah Parsons makes a lot of sense, where Micah is this athletic freak, bigger, taller, faster. Nakobe Dean could kind of be that thumper because we know that their linebackers have done basically a complete 180 from 2 years ago, where you had Jalen Smith and you had Leighton Vander Esch and all these guys. Sean Lee, long retired. Leighton Vander Esch, I think, re-signed for a 1-year deal, but he's basically on the veterans minimum now. Jalen Smith gone. What do you think of this?
I think for me, they needed an edge. I thought they were going to go and attack Jermaine Johnson up top. And I thought an edge was going to be something they had to walk away with. And again, he's a big kid. He's a little bit on the lighter side, but he's fast. He's fast. He's going to get around the edge. And I think for them, all right, you got Micah Parsons swirling around the field. And I would have liked Nakobe Dean. I think you see a lot of great defenses anchored by a great linebacking tandem. But you talk about this kid, again, if he can continue to work on the hand skills, I think that's going to be his key. Because right now he's just faster than everybody. If you can get the hand skills going, you're going to see a kid that can get off the edge a lot quicker, and you pair him alongside Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons can come and rush, and now you have a double team there, and you got one-on-one matchups with the left tackle, and you can just get yourself going.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back to some players who are still available. We need to have a talk here because there's 3 quarterbacks on ESPN's ranking of players who are available. We basically have the 4th, 5th, and 6th are all quarterbacks. They are ones that have been talked about and talked about and talked about. But we're getting to the end. We just talked about Malik Willis if he doesn't go here soon, but there's some other quarterbacks too. We touched a little bit on Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, and Sam Howell. Again, it happens every year where quarterbacks get hyped up pre-draft. Oh, there's going to be 3-4 quarterbacks going in the first round. Oh, all these guys, they can't miss and all this. Have NFL teams gotten smarter, or is there just not places for them? I mean, what do you think it is?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. I think, I was very pleasantly surprised yesterday that we only saw 1 quarterback taken off the board. I said from the get-go, between 5 and 9, I thought at least 1 quarterback would be gone there. But again, I think teams have kind of understood we don't need to reach. I think they also understand what's coming up in next year's draft as well. And also, where is the fit? Because you're looking at it, most teams either have that veteran quarterback, the bridge quarterback. So right now, are they better than that guy, or do you project them to be more valuable than that guy in the future? If not, just keep building your team. And I think what helps with that is this draft is deep everywhere else. If this was just a thin draft class and maybe you had like 6, 7 receivers, but everything else was kind of yeah, you would have seen 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken first round. But here, you have a plethora of talent anywhere on the field besides quarterback. They're going to keep building that team and wait for next year.
No, absolutely. And we kind of saw this with the Eagles this year. A lot of people had thought maybe the Eagles would go quarterback chasing, and they've basically built a team not only around Jalen Hurts, but around for insert quarterback here. That if Jalen Hurts isn't the answer next year, they still have assets to either go trade for a quarterback or go get one in a quarterback heavy draft or one that seems heavy. So again, I think part of it is teams. This sounds terrible, and I don't have to put a nickel in the jar. This is almost an Aaron Rodgers effect. This is what happens when teams overdraft guys, young guys, where they say, no, we have a starter, but just in case. We saw this with Tom Brady for about 10 years, where every couple years they were drafting a quarterback. He didn't do anything. Now, there are very few quarterbacks in the NFL like Tom Brady. There's only one Tom Brady, as a matter of fact. But again, Jordan Love, since the day he got drafted, since the minute he got drafted, has had a target on his back from a lot of people because he was behind Aaron Rodgers. And like, Denver's not going to go get a quarterback now with Russell Wilson. Like, who's Denver's backup? We don't know. They're not going to go draft a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round, even if they like him. If they were high on Desmond Ridder, they're not going to go draft him when they just got Russell Wilson because they don't want the distraction. So I do think that's part of it. And I think just they're not good. Like, sorry, they're not
great. No.
Who in this draft is going to come in and be a day 1 starter?
Kenny Pickett's the closest thing, and then that's not a great place to be if Kenny Pickett's your closest thing.
And Trubisky will probably beat him out.
I think so too. I 100% agree. I think Trubisky right now is better than Kenny Pickett. So,
but I want to take another look at some wide receivers because the reason I want to is because I'm not going to lie. I don't know any more wide receivers. The only one I know of is David Bell because he was a high prospect coming out of high school. But I know you really, really like college football, and you're a very smart man. And again, congratulations for going to the best university for at least basketball, University of North Carolina. But I want to look because they have here Jalen Tolbert, Calvin Austin III out of Memphis, David Bell out of Purdue, Khalil, is it Shaker or Shakir? Shakir out of Boise State. That's the one I keep hearing that people really like.
Yes.
Why do you think they have him ranked as the 4th best receiver available? And I mean, he's 6 foot, 196. Why that guy of that group? Why is he the one that I keep hearing all the time?
He's just electric. I mean, you see him work in the slot, and in the slot, he plays like he's 6'5". Like, he's going to go get the ball out of the air. And then once he has the ball, it's guns a-blazing. I don't know what his 40 was, but I know when you see him on the field, he looks like the fastest guy on the field anytime he's out there. Very good in the slot. And again, when you talk about a guy who is just electric, can shake his way all the way through the defense, and is a good route runner. So for me, if your team, I think in the third round, you're going to see, I think Shakir's the next guy to go, to be honest, because his upside, when you talk about it, is, again, it's just electric slot receiver play. He's going to go pluck the ball out of the air inside. You can move him outside as well, just because of his ability to go high point the ball. This is a kid. And also you can use him in the screen game because he has just the burners with the ball in his hands. So I think he's very versatile, and I think that's why he's just going to keep getting brought up in these conversations.
I love it. All right. While we're waiting here, hold on. Let's see where we left off. Last we saw, it was Buffalo was on the clock. No, Tampa Bay. They take offensive tackle Luke Gadecki.
That's how I think you pronounce it.
Yeah. That's what I'll say. 6'5", 312 out of Central Michigan. That's fine. They need offensive line help. Yep. That's not a bad thing. Amin, I know you did ASAP recap today with you and Dustin and Pride, and I know there's been a lot of shows, and I'm sure you guys talked about the first round, but we need to go back to the first round because we did a mock draft before and then we didn't get to talk about it after. So let's go back to the first round here for just a minute and look at some of the stuff. I don't want to go over all the stuff that everybody else has. So let me just throw a few players and a few matchups out here and ask you what you think of them.
That's it.
The Saints. Double dipping in the first round, moving up to get Ohio State wide receiver Chris Olave, and then at 19 staying there and getting offensive tackle Trevor Penning. A lot of people gave a lot of kudos to the Jersey teams, the Jets and the Giants, for winning the draft and all the stuff and the picks that they made. I kind of think the Saints have gone a little under the radar with their picks. What do you think of these picks? Because again, first-year head coach, the shadow of Sean Payton is going to be there. The shadow of Drew Brees still lingers there. We have Jameis at quarterback, coming back from the ACL injury and stuff. The Taysom Hill experiment is finally over, thank God. But what do you think of these two picks? Because a lot of people were surprised when the Saints traded into the first round before the draft and then traded up again to go get Olave.
Yeah, I thought they were going to go defense at one point just because, you take over you got a defensive guy taking over. You think he's going to go and try to, get himself another guy. But I love the Chris Olave selection because now it's saying, okay, Michael Thomas has indications he's going to come back. If he comes back, great. Olave can be our number 2 and Callaway can be our 3, and we can run it like that. And Jameis, there's your top 3. But if not, fine. Olave, you're our number 1. Callaway's our number 2, and we have a number 3 in-house that we really like. So that to me made a lot of sense. Go get your receiver because no matter what happens with Michael Thomas, you're just helping out Jameis Winston and whoever's going to come after Jameis as well. Trevor Penning, again, protect your quarterback. He's going to need some help. And while I think there was a drop-off from 3 to 4, I think there was a huge drop-off between 4 and 5 in terms of offensive linemen. And to get Trevor Penning here was a great pick. I thought, in the mock draft, I picked up, I think, Devin Lloyd with the Saints' first pick, and I was hoping Trevor Penning would be there 19 to take him there at 19. And that's what ended up happening for them. They didn't have Tony drafting ahead of them. That's the only issue that happened for me. But I like the pick. I think there's a big drop between 4 and 5. I still think he can be very, very good, has a lot of upside, very physical, and can make some plays. So I like Trevor Penning as a tackle as well.
All right, I want to talk about a few wide receivers that were taken in the first round and then one big trade. Washington taking Jahan Dotson at 16. This one kind of surprised me just because I was surprised, number one, that he went that high. I mean, obviously, everybody's boards look different. We're not Jerry Jones. We're not going to show you our board, but everybody's boards are different. So I can't begrudge them for taking a player that they thought they liked higher. But the Washington team in general, I see a few guys that went behind, and I'm like, I kind of would have liked them in Washington, just the way that it is. What do you think of that selection specifically? Do you think it makes sense? Remember, they spent money on Curtis Samuel last year. They have Terry McLaurin. What do you think of Dotson going to Washington?
Yeah, so a lot of people thought it might have been Treylon Burks who went up there at Washington. But I think Dotson at one point during this season was called the best receiver in college football. Now, he didn't retain that title at all. But here's a guy who in the slot has elite ball skills, very, very good. And he moves his body around, contorts it, similar to what Garrett Wilson does. And I think he kind of gets overlooked because the quarterback play at Penn State was not very good. But he still was and he said good. But he still produces. I mean, you talk about the whiteout game that Penn State has. It's the one Penn State game I watch every single year, the whiteout game, because that game's always electric. He was the difference in that game for the first. I think they won that game. He's the difference for the game, at least in the second half when they came back from behind. This is a guy who can make plays inside, can make plays outside, can go down the field, and can be a possession guy. So if Terry McLaurin wants to be the deep threat, Dotson can be your inside guy. You still have Curtis Samuel in town. I don't mind the pick. Did I think it was a little high? Sure. But I don't think he's so far beyond Treylon Burks where I'm mad at the pick.
Well, speaking of Treylon Burks, let's talk about him real quick, and then we'll do like two more things here, and then get back to the draft. It's live. As we know, as I'm sure you know if you're watching, the Tennessee Titans traded A.J. Brown, disgruntled wide receiver, no longer disgruntled, he's very gruntled, to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then they decided to pull the old Minnesota Vikings trick of trading a wide receiver and then drafting a wide receiver. We saw the Vikings do it with Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs. Now we see Tennessee doing it with A.J. Brown and Treylon Burks. My question is, and I can't believe I'm asking this, shouldn't you have a little bit more faith in Kirk Cousins at quarterback than Ryan Tannehill at quarterback working with a receiver? Like, I mean, the thing that it is with Tennessee, I get why you take the wide receiver. But if you're trading A.J. Brown, you're obviously going to shift the way that you play. You have to, because Treylon Burks, no matter how good he is, I shouldn't say no matter how good he is, more than likely, no matter how good he is, he's not going to be able to duplicate what A.J. Brown did. So what do you think of them taking Burks here? Do you like it? I mean, there was a deleted tweet by A.J. Brown where basically he thanked everybody in Tennessee and then in capital letters said, "This is not my fault," and then deleted the tweet. So for all you social media gurus out there, yeah. So what do you think of it, Alman?
Well, I think this guy feels like A.J. Brown. He's 6'2", 225, fast, down the field guy. Can run all the routes in the route tree, great hands. I don't mind the pick here. I still think that I don't like Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback. I still think you need to upgrade there. Wherever you need to find it, you got to find it. But yeah, you're going to need a number one receiver. Without him, you lost Jonnu Smith, you lost Corey Davis, you lost A.J. Brown. You traded A.J. Brown, and then you lose Julio Jones. You're without a true receiver. So you need somebody to be that number one guy. I think Adam Humphries may still be in town. Okay, that's your number one. Good luck trying to throw the football with Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback.
Humphries is in Washington, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he in Washington?
I don't
now?
know.
Yeah.
He might be in Tennessee still.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you have no idea who's in that Tennessee locker room right now. So to me, I think you needed somebody. You needed someone to help out. And he also kind of feels Deebo Samuel-ish. I think I said this in the mock draft where he ran a lot with Arkansas. He was I think 80% of their offense went through him. So if you want to go use him in the end arounds, use him in the quick screens, he's accustomed to it and he's used to it. So he can be another guy you can just kind of plug and play and give Derrick Henry a little bit of rest on.
No, absolutely. I don't hate it. It's just kind of like, all right. Like, are you going to catch lightning in a bottle twice? Maybe. Yeah. We have to get to my favorite happening of the night. And really it's in correlation with what happened today. And I did mention it. The Dallas Cowboys, who actually draft offensive linemen pretty well. Usually they've had a decent history, especially in the early rounds. They take Tyler Smith, offensive tackle from Tulsa. A lot of people thought he was more of a mid-round projection. But, that's, again, nobody cares about your projections other than you. So keep that in mind. A lot of people, again, thought it was a reach. Jerry Jones, in his meeting today with Stephen Jones and everybody, was talking to reporters, and basically a reporter had kind of asked or insinuated about, hey, don't you think that was a bit of a reach? And Jerry said, no, we actually had him as the number one player on our board. And, I'm sure a few people maybe rolled their eyes or scoffed. And Jerry, ever being Jerry Jones, decided to hold up the board and say, you don't believe me? Here's our board right here. And I know you're young. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Not in my lifetime. That's for sure. Not in my lifetime. I've ever seen anything like that. Man, Jerry Jones. Like, that's when you what I related to is like when you're in high school and you tell somebody, someone's like, you didn't actually do that. And it's like, no, I have proof. Like, that's what it felt like to me. He's like, oh no, I have proof I did it. I have proof. And to me, I just think Jerry Jones he fumbled the bag on that one. You picked him. Like, people questioned Bill Belichick for taking Strange, right? And he didn't show everyone the draft board. They said you might have reached. No, he didn't show the draft board. So it's some level of unprofessionalism in that time. So I think it's like, oh, I got to show you, I don't know. I didn't like the move at all.
Yeah, it was so weird. I told you guys earlier, I was talking to a buddy of mine who lives in Texas and is a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, and he was not happy with the pick. And I was literally getting ready to hang up with him on the phone this morning, and I saw the tweet, and I literally started laughing. I could not stop myself from laughing. I felt bad for my friend, but I kind of didn't because I really needed that laugh. 2022 has been a rough year. I needed that laugh. And the fact that Jerry pulls it up and Steven's like, put the board down. Like, what are you doing? It's just, oh my God. Old people are the best. I really do. If there's any old people watching, I'm sorry, but you really are the best.
Yeah, that's rough.
Let's get in here. Look at a few more picks since the last time we talked. The Falcons take Troy Anderson, inside linebacker from Montana State. The Vikings take guard Ed Ingram from LSU. The Bengals, with a little bit of a surprise, taking safety Cam Taylor-Britt from Nebraska. If you remember, they took a safety in the first round also. Now, again, just because they're listed at safety doesn't mean they don't play corner or something. But remember, they have Jesse Bates under the franchise tag. He's somebody, I said it during the mock draft. I'll say it again. I really like Jesse Bates. He's somebody you need to build around on that defense. But to take two safeties with your first two picks, what do you think?
So, I've heard that he plays a lot of corner. He played a lot of corner in college, and I think NFL.com has him listed as a cornerback because I remember hearing his name as a corner. So I think depending on the site you'd use, he'll be a different position there. So I think he's a versatile player. But yeah, if you picked him to be a safety, okay, depth, sure, I get it. But Jesse Bates is a hell of a safety. Like, you don't find Jesse Bates every day. He was a cornerstone of that secondary, a bad secondary, if we're going to be honest about it. And he made it pretty decent. So, again, if he's going to play corner, great. You get more people to play corner. But if he ain't playing corner, this is going to call. I would start panicking if I'm a Bengals fan, because does this mean I'm not bringing back Jesse Bates? Because that's a problem.
I mean, I don't think there's any way on earth that they rescind the franchise tag. I can only remember having it done once, and that was Josh Norman for Carolina, where they had him on the franchise tag, and they basically pulled the tag and said, cool, you're a free agent now, like, go away. So I don't think that's what the Bengals are going to do. I thought that they should have invested in the defensive backfield. That was something, again, they signed some one-year veterans last year. A lot of them re-signed this year. They've made it to the Super Bowl. So I do think you need to get the youth in there. Again, if he does play corner, I'm fine with that. Again, NFL defenses are turning into hybrids anyway. Like, you're seeing 3 safeties on the field, 4 safeties on the field in some packages. I mean, so guys are going to be interchangeable. It really is. The defensive backfield, I think, more than anything, looks like an NBA roster where the standard positions just aren't what they used to be. When 7-footers are bringing the ball up, when 6-foot guys are, running floaters in the paint, it's just different. And I think that's what defensive backfields have been going towards for a while. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tampa, you look at what they've done in terms of last year, they played like 4 safeties at a time. And the third corner was Jamel Dean, who's listed as a safety. So they have guys all over the field playing safety and corner and this, that. And I think, as more teams go zone and try to get faster, more aggressive athletes, that's just what's going to happen. You're going to get the best athlete and say, look, we're going to drop you in this zone. Don't let anyone catch the ball and hit whoever flies by. And if you can do that, you'll play corner, you'll play safety, whatever it's called, you're going to play it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I just think we talk about it all the time. Depth. Yeah. Well, to have depth, you need to draft guys, and that's what happens.
But to your point earlier, Atlanta and Minnesota both pass on a quarterback. And now you're looking at Malik Willis possibly trickling down into the 3rd round if you don't see Denver. To me, Denver is the next closest thing to taking a quarterback, because Niners just draft Trey Lance. Of course, Kansas City. Of course, Buffalo. Denver's the only option to me that could, in the 2nd round left, take a quarterback unless someone trades up.
I don't see it.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either. Do you?
No, I just can't imagine. And again, to me, I feel like he could look a lot like Russ if he develops, but that still doesn't mean you take him. I don't think they take him. I think they're going to continue to go and try to build elsewhere. I don't see Malik Willis being a priority for Denver. I just don't see it.
I don't either. You know what? While we're waiting, Drake Jackson, fast rising linebacker out of USC, goes to the San Francisco 49ers. I don't hate that pick. I don't. I think something that the 49ers have needed is some linebacker play, whether that's, obviously you have Nick Bosa on the end, you've got some good defensive linemen there, but I think somebody behind them helps, and he's a guy, again, I kept hearing, his name kind of climbing up some boards and stuff. So I don't hate that pick. While we wait for Kansas City, Buffalo, and Denver here, San Francisco, as you said, that was their first pick of the draft. Denver will have their first pick of the draft coming up. Let's look at the top of round 3, because maybe that's where we see the quarterbacks go. Yeah. Maybe that's, let's look here. We have Jacksonville, Minnesota, the Giants, the Browns, the Titans, and the Jaguars again. So Jaguars, 2 of the first 6 picks in the 3rd round. Any of those teams could you see going for a quarterback? Even if it's not Malik Willis, could you see them going for anybody?
I think Minnesota would make a lot of sense, right? You got Kirk Cousins. How long you want to keep paying him? Mm-hmm. New York, they didn't take him early, but now later you might be saying, hey, we could still, get a guy that we like. And if you think Malik Willis can be Josh Allen, great. If you think, Desmond Ridder, his accuracy is too much that you can't pass up. If Matt Corral's intangibles are there, I know I have to keep throwing Matt Corral's name. And then Tennessee. I think Tennessee is another name that would be interested in taking a quarterback. Again, how much longer are you going to pay Ryan Tannehill? No one believes in Ryan Tannehill like that anymore. If you find a guy you like, it's not a terrible option in the 3rd round.
I believe Ryan Tannehill has the highest quarterback cap hit of anybody in the NFL this upcoming season. It's time to, I won't say it, but it's time to crap or get off the pot. With him, it's restructure, extension, or hey man, we're going to draft your replacement. So it's nuts. If you're the Giants, if you're new GM Joe Shane, and you look at Brian Daboll and you're in the war room and you say, listen, of the quarterbacks that are here, is there a guy that you think could be your future quarterback? I think you have to have a private conversation and really talk about it. And if Daboll says, yeah, I think if you give me Malik Willis and give me, this season and going into next year, I think that I can turn him into Josh Allen 2.0 or Russell Wilson 1.5 or Lamar Jackson 0.83, whatever it is. And they have to have that serious conversation. And again, maybe it's Willis, maybe it's Ridder, maybe it's Corral, maybe it's Sam Howell. Who knows? But I think that is a spot that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think they know he's not our guy. Daniel Jones is not our guy. So if they think one of these guys could be, the 3rd round's a great place. But if they don't, then okay, that's fine. We can go next year and take it. So I don't think they're going to force anything. It's going to be, look, Brian, you sure you can do this? If not, we'll go next year. You think, who do you think? We can go next year and do it. So to me, it's an interesting situation. They could do it. I don't know. I really have no idea. It's one of the drafts you just sit there and say, I have no idea if they're going to even think about it.
We are 2 picks away from Nakobe Dean dropping into the 3rd round. The Kansas City Chiefs took safety Brian Cook out of Cincinnati. Wow. Okay. Another defensive back out of Cincinnati going in the first 2 rounds. That has to feel pretty good for them. I actually, in the mock draft I did with my friend on our pod, not Jawing and Balling, but the pod I have out of bounds, I actually gave him I gave him Quay Walker. I gave him Quay Walker in the 1st round mock, and then Quay went much, much earlier. So maybe Nakobe Dean makes sense there. I don't know. Let's talk about it some more. So we talked about him earlier. What is going on? Is it just the size? Did they think he was a benefit of all those defensive linemen and Quay Walker? What is going on? How did everybody miss on this guy?
I don't know. I think maybe it's because they think he's closer to his ceiling than the rest of this Georgia defense. When you look at Quay Walker, you look at a guy who didn't play necessarily better than Nakobe Dean, but you talk about the upsides with the size, with the speed, with everything. Yeah, that's something to talk about, right? You talked about it. Why not take a chance on somebody who's that, can end up being that quality? But I still think Nakobe Dean is going to be good for somebody. I think you put him in a system, He feels a little like Roquan Smith all over the field, doesn't miss tackles, and it's just smart, insanely smart. I don't know. And if I'm Buffalo, if I'm Sean McDermott, I had Luke Kuechly for years in Carolina. This is a guy who can kind of fill that.
Mm-hmm. And he's also a guy who's going to come in, especially now with a chip on his shoulder.
Yes.
He is going to, I mean, not that any of these guys aren't going to try and prove themselves, but we know there's some head cases who could just care less about football. We see it in basketball. We see it in baseball. We see it in everything. But a guy like Nakobe Dean, if he falls to the end of the second round, the second to last pick in the second round, and he goes to Buffalo, especially in a win now team, he's going to say, listen, I'm not here to mess around. I'm here to help take this team to the Super Bowl. And he is going to have a chip on his shoulder. It just, these Georgia guys are built differently, man.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's crazy. And one thing I loved about Nakobe Dean, anytime you turn on any of his tape, unlike Jordan Davis, who had to take and plays off, he plays every down that this is the last down of football he'll ever play. So you add that to someone who's now saying, okay, you don't think I'm better than this guy. You think this guy's better than me. You think I'm the 63rd, or you think I'm the 70th best player. All right, we're going to see. And you add that to his attitude already. I love it. I love the combo.
Yep. All right. I mean, we talked a lot about the first round. We talked about players we love, but we do need to go back while we wait for these last two picks. We'll go a little bit longer here. We want to go at least into some of the third round, I think. Give me your worst pick. And not necessarily the bad player, but just the wrong team, the wrong situation. Maybe you don't like the player. What was just one when it happened, you were just like, I don't like that?
I think Kenny Pickett is the obvious one, right? I think that's the one that's pretty obvious.
Okay.
But outside of that, I don't know there's anything that I hate a lot. Again, Tyler Smith is like, there's better guys available. Honestly, I think a lot of teams did really good job drafting. I think Trayvon was a shock for me at the top. I didn't think they'd go and take him number one just because of his floor. But to me, Kenny Pickett might have been the worst pick. Not because they shouldn't have taken a quarterback. I just don't think they took the right quarterback. And if he hits, he hits. I just don't see where Kenny Pickett is better than Mitch Trubisky now, or will he really ever be better than Mitch Trubisky. I just don't see it.
That's very fair. No, that's fine. Mine's a lot higher up in the draft. I before anybody says anything, I'm not letting my Ohio State fandom get to me. It's Aiden Hutchinson at 2. I just don't get it. I get he's a local boy. I get that he's the hero. I get that he had his own podcast. I get that the family loves him. All I kept hearing last night was, oh, the country fell in love with Aiden Hutchinson and this Michigan team. Really? 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 Like, no, I'm sorry. Like, number 2, the number 2 overall pick. I just, I get it, but I don't get it. It's just one of those things. Even if he ends up being good, I'm still just gonna like be the contrarian and be like, well, I still don't like it. What does he do great? Like, what does he do? What does he do great? He's the number 2 overall pick. You can say that Trayvon Walker, like, he was part of that Georgia defense. They didn't ask him to rush the passer. He's got less than 10 career sacks, all that. That is perfectly fine. And if you want to go for the upside, that's fine. If I'm Detroit, I just don't get. For a team that made a lot of sense last year in the way that they played with a first-year head coach, a guy that I'm not crazy about, in Dan Campbell, and some of the players they drafted and some of the players they brought in, I was like, okay, they are trying to reestablish themselves as an inside-out football team. To me, I just don't think Aiden Hutchinson is that important of a piece at number 2. What do you think?
So I liked Aiden Hutchinson. I had him number 1 in the mock, and what I see is a guy who's technically all there. I mean, everything is there. And I get what you're saying about the sense that he is a lot closer to his ceiling than what Trayvon Walker or Thibodeau is. When you talk about a guy where his hands are always active, the feet are always on time, and he has a plethora of moves to go, whether it's going around you with the speed, whether it's through you with the bull, or he's going to swim under you. I think he has all the moves you need to be at the next level. And he felt to me like that Dan Campbell type of player where he's going to bite your kneecap on the way up. I know that's the saying that's kind of weird to say. I hate saying it every time I do it.
It's extremely weird. Okay.
It's extremely weird to say. Like that's what it is, but he said it. You know what? So I got to bring it up. To me, I just think he showed up anytime they needed him. I felt like he was always present. I think he's a big game player. I don't know. I see what you mean in the sense that what does he do great? Because on film, it doesn't pop. He doesn't feel what Myles Garrett was when he came out. Like, you watch Myles Garrett, you say, geez, this guy is going to be unbelievable. You don't get that sense with Aiden Hutchinson, but I think at the very least, he's going to be a very, very good pass rusher at the next level.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, good luck to him. I mean, I don't wish him injury. I mean, I did when he was at Michigan, but now I could care less. He's in Detroit. It doesn't affect me at all. Okay, we did have our last 2 picks of the second round here. We had running back from Georgia, James Cook, going to the Buffalo Bills. You like that?
I like that. They need a running back, and I think James Cook gives them a couple options, right? Can go pound the ball or can go out the backfoot and catch it. I think when you get a back like that to pair alongside Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, I like it for the third running back.
Okay, no, that's perfectly fine. And then Denver making their first selection of the draft with Nick Bonito from Oklahoma, outside linebacker. What do you think of that one?
I think it tells us a lot about what Bradley Chubb is going through in the sense that he cannot stay on the field. I think for them, it's saying, okay, if Bradley Chubb's not there, our pass rush doesn't look as threatening as being advertised. So we need to get some pieces to be added. Is he going to be an immediate day one, impact player? I don't know. I'm not sure. But you're giving yourself some depth. If Bradley Chubb is hurt again, boom, we can plug in Nick. So I think it fits a need that they had.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because we saw last year. I mean, they had a top 3 defense in the league. We saw what the defensive backfield was. I mean, they were incredible at times. Of course, their quarterback play left something to be desired, which is how they ended up in the position they were in and went and got Russell Wilson. As big of a fan as I'm not of Russell Wilson, he's clearly an upgrade in Denver. And I think right now they're looking at their offense and they're saying, no, we've got the offense. We're not worried about that. We need some front 7 guys. We need some guys who are going to get pressure, who are going to take teams like the Chargers and make it harder for them to establish, a 5-step, a 7-step drop, get the ball out deep down the field. And whether it's hitting the wide receivers or tight ends off the line, or whether it's rushing the passer, the Broncos definitely needed help, and they got that. So now we go on to the third round. Look at this draft just flying by. It only took 2.5 hours to do one draft. A much better job than last night. Third round, the Jaguars are on the clock. You know what? Let's look at some teams here because Jacksonville is definitely a team that I'm interested in for the simple reason they traded back into the first round and got Devin Lloyd, a player that you, Tony, and I all really liked. Of course, they didn't have a second round pick because that's what they traded up with. But what do you think of them going defense with Trayvon Walker and Devin Lloyd so far?
It's interesting because, again, you pick up you drafted Trevor Lawrence last year. You go and get Doug Peterson to be your head coach. You assume there's going to be some offense sprinkled in. Well, then they go and sign Cam Robinson. So it kind of took out the possibility of a tackle at number 1. Even though I thought they could have still considered drafting a tackle at number 1. I wouldn't have been against it. I wouldn't have hated it. I think it fills their needs because you lose Myles Jack. Josh Allen is a good defensive end. You go and get him some help with Trayvon Walker. You drafted Devin Lloyd. Imagine you walk away with the next best linebacker in Nakobe Dean. You could go right here and go bam, bam, a 1-2 punch. And whoever works, great, you got him. And if one doesn't work, fine, we got the other one. Nakobe Dean, to me, right here, could you imagine getting 2 upgrades at the interior linebacker position and 2 different style players?
I mean, it would absolutely be fascinating. I would almost be mad because Trent Baalke making the decisions. I hate to give him any credit, so I feel like I'd be, cutting off my nose to spite my face. But no, I absolutely agree with you. It does make sense. Again, could we see them maybe go for wide receiver? I know they signed Christian Kirk. Maybe again, we talked about that kind of. I think right now we're basically to the 3rd tier of receiver or the 2.5 tier of receiver. And
they went offensive line.
Maybe that's we got one here. Luke Fortner, the center out of Kentucky, is the selection for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wow. So they're really working on the front 7 of both sides. We just talked about getting a D end and an inside linebacker, and now they go center. You do need to protect Trevor Lawrence. So, I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. You got to go protect your guy. Receiver, I was all with you there too. I thought it'd either be Nakobe Dean or a receiver, but to go get yourself a center. If you can continue to protect Trevor Lawrence, who made an abysmal Jacksonville offensive line look somewhat decent last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a win.
Yep. All right. This is where we're getting into the sweet spot, Almond.
Yep.
The Minnesota Vikings, the New York Giants, and the Cleveland Browns. We know Cleveland's obviously not taking. Wow, that came in quick. Well, the Vikings did not take a quarterback. They took Brian Asamoah, the inside linebacker from Oklahoma. Again, revamping the defense in Minnesota. What do you think of the pick?
I'm shocked they didn't go Nakobe Dean, same position. Wow. Again, I'm not surprised they go defense. I think, they need some energy, some life back there. And Brian can fit that role. Again, he's a big energy, big hitter kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little shocked it wasn't Nakobe Dean here. I just want to know, what do these teams find on Nakobe Dean that all of us aren't seeing?
Is there an injury? I mean, I'll read you some of the pre-draft analysis here. Asamoah is one of the most explosive off-the-ball linebackers in his class. Yeah. He excels in coverage, where he has the speed and burst to match up with backs. He is an instinctive pass rusher who closes well. He's a rangy run defender and an effective open field tackler. He is a bit undersized at 6 foot 226. He gets knocked off course too easily and makes too many stops 4 to 5 yards downfield. Again, just what?
Nothing against Brian. I think he can be very good. He fits. He does something a little bit different than Nakobe Dean. Again, the coverage thing, but I need to know what was found on Nakobe Dean. Something's here. There's something we're missing.
Injury? I mean, we haven't heard anything. We've seen guys fall before that had injuries, and we just kind of like find out afterwards. The Giants are on the board now. Let's look at their draft board so far. Of obviously double dipping in the top 10 with Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. And then in the second round, they took wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson. That was somebody we didn't talk about. I know you've been big on receivers in this draft. What did you think of? And they just got their pick in. What did you think of Wan'Dale Robinson? I
thought he was a solid receiver. I was surprised he went over the man out of Boise State, but I think he can be very good. Again, I think he has enough speed to get down the field. And I think he kind of fits what you're looking for for what Brian Daboll wants to do, which is route running. I think he does a lot of the inside stuff really well. So if they can keep making those strides, I think he's going to be solid for him.
Well, the Giants did take an offensive player from North Carolina, but it's not the one you wanted them to take. They took Joshua Ezeudu. Okay. Offensive guard from North Carolina. So they did not take Sam Howell. They did not take.
Oh, I never said Sam Howell. Don't worry. I didn't bring his name up. No, I didn't bring his name up. Don't worry about that one.
That's not something you're worried about. Again, let's look at the next few picks here. We have the Cleveland Browns on the clock for their first pick of the draft, and then the Tennessee Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars again. Then we get the Bears, the Seahawks, the Colts, the Falcons. I mean, wow. I'll tell you what, let's go back and look at our best available. I wish we could take the quarterbacks out because
they're placeholders. It feels like
they're just they're obviously going to be higher up because of who they are. So let's look at really it's the same players that we had earlier.
Yeah, nothing's changed. There's
ESPN is I mean, whoever does their stuff, whether it's Matt Miller or Matt Millen or whoever it is. Let's move down here some. Bernard Raymond is somebody, or Raymond is somebody I heard as, possibly a second or third round pick that a lot of people liked, offensive tackle out of Central Michigan. Christian Harris, the really fast linebacker from Alabama. I'm kind of surprised he's still hanging around. Leo, you're going to help me with, is it Chenal?
I think it's Chenal, if I remember.
Chenal. Leo Chenal is somebody a lot of people seem to like, but it's... This draft kind of makes me happy in the fact that it's blown up some mocks and the ideas of players.
Yep.
And also is frustrating because I don't care who you are. You can't watch all the colleges in the world. So some of the names that you hear, again, like
you just have no idea. Yeah.
This draft is going to be the Nakobe Dean draft. It's going to be what happened.
What happened? Absolutely. What happened?
I really wish Tony was here because he'd come up with some smart aleck thing to say. But but it's so weird. Like, let me ask you this right now. What is more surprising still, that Nakobe Dean is on the board or that we're still at one quarterback taken?
Ooh, Honestly, Nakobe. Ah, man, that's tough because one quarter I thought there'd be two in the first round. I think Nakobe Dean might be the answer here, just because of how much people liked Nakobe Dean. Came from Georgia. Obviously, it didn't matter that people came from Georgia. Everyone loved what Georgia was doing, so they didn't have a problem drafting Georgia guys. I think it's a big shocker. At round 3, you're telling me that you still have a chance if you're the Cleveland Browns now to go and get yourself an interior linebacker. Like, that's what is about to go in here. So it's, Tennessee could go get him. In the third round, Nakobe Dean, who again was, I think, listed as the 19th best prospect in the entire draft.
I think the lowest I saw him was like 25. I mean, this was a consensus first round guy. I don't care who you talk to. This guy was a consensus first round pick.
This is wild. I don't know. Again, size is something, but man.
I mean, I guess, but even then, I mean, it's so weird. I don't know. Like, the only player that I can think of like this, and it's a totally different situation, and I'm not trying to say that Nakobe Dean has anything going on illegal or illicit, but do you remember when Lyle Collins was accused of possible murder?
Yep.
And he was a suspect, and he literally fell out of the draft, and the Cowboys signed him as, a free agent.
Yeah.
And of course he was found exonerated, like he wasn't involved at all. But even Laramie Tunsil just dropped in the draft some, and he had a picture of him wearing a gas mask.
Video.
Like, and like
now it's an NFT, so good for you.
Well, he just did it as an NFT, yeah. So I mean, like, we've seen guys drop, but I mean, we're talking dropping 2 rounds.
Like, and this is not a guy people said, yeah, maybe sneaks it. This is a first rounder, could potentially be a top 5, top 10 overall pick, who, by the looks of it, again, is going to be available midway through this third round. And if ESPN keeps telling me Cleveland's pick is in, and it's still not in, so I don't know what's going on here, but I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what is going on with Nakobe Dean.
I don't get it. Like, I don't. And there's going to be, obviously, I mean, I'm sure people who are much more savvy at social media, including you, sir, could go and find, the hashtag Nakobe Dean and go through the comments and the hashtags. And I'm sure piece it together by people. Oh, well, I'm hearing this and I'm hearing that. But it's just not there right now. And we're not watching we're not watching the draft live. We're on here and we're following along on this. So I can't even tell you if ESPN or ABC or NFL Network is talking about this.
So the last injury that I found for Nakobe Dean, he suffered a pec injury. This is before the combine and pro day. So he wasn't able to fully participate. So I think, is it the testing that they're worried about? The fact that he wasn't able to test at the combine and they didn't get to see, does a size really matter? I don't know, but this is wild to me.
It is. Cleveland made the choice. Martin Emerson, cornerback out of Mississippi State. I get it, but a little surprising. Yeah. I think their defensive back room is pretty full, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty full, and I think they reached on him as well. I don't think he would have not been there had you gotten and waited to the 4th round. To me, the linebacker room looked a little more scarce than what your corner is looking at, but they see something in him. Again, I don't see a lot. He's good at the press coverage stuff. He's good off the line of scrimmage. But once you get him 5 yards deep, I don't see. Again, he's going to develop. I'm not saying this is as good as he's going to be, but in college, I think once he caught him 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, he got in trouble.
Yeah, again, again, even if it's not Nakobe Dean, we're not getting paid by Nakobe Dean. This is just so confusing. Like, if we would have been doing the first round last night, I would have been confused by it then.
Yes.
We came into this an hour and a half after the draft started, and Nakobe Dean is still sitting there, and we're an hour plus into our show, and he's still sitting there. Like, this is confusing.
There's something going on. I don't know what it is yet. And there's no reports. I Googled it and there's nothing. I've gone to everything, man.
All right, let me ask you this, because I don't know. I used to love watching the draft. I hate this format. I was a big fan of Saturdays and Sundays, waking up at 11 o'clock Saturday morning, at noon it started, and you just went right into it. You did, I think it was the first, second, and third rounds on Saturday, 4, 5, 6, and 7 were on Sunday. I used to make a day of it. That was what I used to do. But Last year, it seemed that especially the first round drug on for a very long time. Do you feel like the picks are coming in quicker this year?
The Lions pick came in a lot quicker. That's for sure. That pick was the quickest pick I've ever seen in my life.
Really.
But they do feel a little bit quicker. I don't see a lot of teams getting down to the 1 minute mark. And maybe it's because there isn't like this shortage that we've seen. Maybe this, it's not this scarcity of, oh, this is like the only corner, this is the only linebacker. There, you have a plethora. So if you don't like this guy's going to be available. I don't know why it's coming in quicker, but it does feel a lot quicker than last year. Maybe last year, again, the COVID bubble might have been something to do with it. Again, there's a lot of different things that go on and play. It feels like they're trying to make it more of like a concert, like a Coachella type event, the NFL draft. And I don't know if it's hitting or not hitting because I don't remember when they had a 2-day thing. So I can't give you any differences between them.
Number one, I hate that you're so young. It makes me very angry. Every time I see you, it just makes me more angry. I just turned 40 the other day, and I see your face, and I just want to smack it. We did joking. We did have a selection. The Tennessee Titans took the best player available because he went to Ohio State, offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere. So, it makes sense for them. They've had some troubles on the offensive line, so you get a guy who I think a lot of people had is like an All-American, in the preseason and stuff. He was somebody who was highly regarded. So, we'll see. Andre, how are you, sir? Thank you for joining us. We're just doing the draft. Wow. Another inside linebacker, but not Nakobe Dean going to Jacksonville. They take Chad Muma, which great name, by the way, inside linebacker from Wyoming. So, Amon, they did what you said they should do, which was get a linebacker to match with Devin Lloyd. The problem is they didn't get the guy we thought. Yeah, what do you think of Chad Muma?
He's, to me, similar to what Nakobe Dean is in the sense that he is inside. He's going to stuff the run. He's going to come down hard. So he fits that kind of 1-2 combo punch with Devin Lloyd. I don't see him as better than Nakobe Dean. Again, he's 6'3", 239. So is the height is that what it is? Is that what we're looking at here? 6'3"? That's the only thing I'm seeing. Like they're talking about he's good in pursuit. I didn't see anyone better in pursuit than Nakobe Dean, really, when you watch Georgia's defense. Like I don't know. I don't think it's a bad pick. It fits, but I don't think it's you had I think a guy who plays the same exact style better that was available. This is wow, Nakobe Dean.
Well, I mean, you've been called out by Andre. What the hell are the Pats doing, bro? Well, you know what, Andre? Let's pull it up here. Let's pull up what the Pats have done so far, sir. All right, you call us out. We come with receipts. Okay.
Yeah, I got an army of Pats fans with me. I got Joe and me. We're the whole army here.
Listen,
so we got this.
Cole Strange in the first round, offensive guard. We'll get to him in just a moment. Tyquan Thornton in the second round. I like it. Amon and we talked about it when the pick happened, but again, to kind of rehash it, 4.28 40 at the combine, fastest wide receiver. I did see some notes. He's actually got the smallest wrists in the draft. So how much that matters, we'll see. He's a slender guy. He actually says he mimics his game after Devontae Adams. We'll see about that.
I'll take Devontae Adams.
But they do have 2 picks coming up. They've got the 21st and the 30th picks in the third round. So they are going to have a chance here to add some more talent. Maybe. Right now, ESPN is showing that their needs are offensive guard and wide receiver. I'm sorry, those were ones that were taken. Cornerback, inside linebacker, outside linebacker. Those positions are available right now. We didn't get a chance to talk about. We did a little bit earlier about Cole Strange. I want to give you the opportunity because I'm going to go all in on this. So You've been called out by Andre. Tell him what the hell the Pats are doing.
Joe convinced me Cole Strange yesterday. I had nothing against Cole Strange because I thought you watch the tape. He's a good run blocker. He's a mauler. He's going to get down there. And the Patriots needed a guard. That's just plain and simple. You lose Shaq Mason. You lose Ted Karras. There you go. There's your replacement in him. For me, I was saying I thought we could pick him here in the third round. I thought at 21 here in the third, we would have an opportunity to take Cole Strange. Well, Joe sends me an article report saying he was not going to last that long. You heard Sean McVay look up at the draft board and say, look at that. Cole Strange went in the first round. We shouldn't have wasted our time looking at him for 104. So this is a guy people liked. He is going to be very good for Mac Jones, a team that's going to be predicated on running the football. You talk about Damian Harris getting an extra blocker, Ramondre Stevenson getting a mauler, and you have a beast coming behind him. I like the pick. The pick makes a lot of sense. And after Joe sent me that thing about him probably not being available in the third round, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was going to be in the second round at 54. We saw some offensive linemen go, and I think that he's enough of an athlete and a talent that people weren't going to pass on him. I mean, yeah, the Rams could have him graded at 104. Well, guess what? Nobody has Nakobe Dean graded, and we're at pick 68 or 70 or something. Like, I mean, so again, your grades don't matter to other people. They just don't. And I brought this point up to Amon last night, and I brought it up with my buddy earlier who was questioning me about the pick. Listen, wide receivers in the New England system struggle. I do not expect the rookie wide receiver at New England to be a day one starter in the league. He's not going to be. He's going to have to learn the playbook. Linebackers sometimes struggle. Do you know who plays on Bill Belichick's teams as rookies usually? Offensive linemen. So what I'm getting with the 29th overall pick is I'm getting a guy who's going to play more than likely, barring injuries, at least, at minimum, 75 to 80% of total snaps. So right from the start, I'm getting a return on investment from a pick. I'm not saying, well, this guy can be part of a rotation. Well, this guy, no. Presumably, he slides right into one of your starting guard positions, probably left guard, and makes a difference right away. Isn't that what we ask of our first-round picks? Again, I don't hate the pick. I'm not in love with the pick, but I like the pick. And I think that's more – I think more fans just need to get to that point. Like, oh, yeah, I'd love to have the number one overall pick. Cool. Not everybody gets it. You get the 29th overall pick because you trade back. You pick up assets, one of them being an extra third rounder right here. And now you get a chance to add some more athletes, to add some more talent to your team. And you get a guy who, like Almond said, is a road grader, is somebody who's going to make room and hopefully develop pass protection for Mac Jones or whatever quarterback is in the future. Let's look here. Okay, well, the Bears did get some wide receiver help for Justin Fields. Velus Jones Jr. out of Tennessee. Is it Velus or Velus?
I believe it's Velus. I haven't heard this name a lot thrown around.
Okay.
So.
Okay. You haven't heard the name a lot. Let's look. He was the only FBS player with more than 800 receiving yards, 200 punt return yards, and 600 kickoff return yards in 2021, according to ESPN stats and info. It says he's an instinctive open field runner with good contact balance and breakaway speed. 6 foot, 204. What do you think of this for Justin Fields and the Bears?
I think it gives you options. I like Darryl Mooney. I think he was very underrated last year. But now you get a guy who can play on the outside, can go down the field. Justin Fields has the arm talent to get it down to him. But they also say right there in the description that he is very dangerous with the ball in his hands. So now, Justin, hey, get the ball out quick. Don't take the hits. Just here you go. Slant, screens, boom. Get him out in open space. You can run some more of these RPO type things, or you can run some bootlegs. You can do different things with him. I think he gives you the versatility off play actions to go and take the top off the defense, to give you some things to go just quick passing game. I think that's what he allows Justin Fields to do. They needed to go receiver. He's a versatile receiver at that. So I think it'll be a solid selection for Chicago.
All right. I would like to ask you a trivia question that I just found online.
All right.
When was the last time only one quarterback was taken in the top 2 rounds? Can you give me the year and the quarterback? I know you can't. I'll give you a hint. It was before you were born.
2000 Chad Pennington.
I hate you.
That's Tom Brady's draft. I know all the quarterbacks taking that draft class. So
I hate you so much. Stop being smart. Listen, anybody who's dumb, anybody from ASAP watching that's dumb, hop on. Come on, real quick. Hop on. I need a dumb guy. Come on. Somebody come with me that's dumb. I can't handle this anymore. No, I mean, listen, it's literally a once in a generational thing. 22 years it hasn't happened, and it's happening tonight. So it's I guess the more important question at this point is, and I think it's a fair question to ask, does a quarterback get taken in the 3rd round?
I think there has to be, right? I can't imagine you're a team like Atlanta. You're sitting with the 10th pick. You don't try your hand. Indy, you don't try your hand. You have 2 picks. Like
Seattle's on the clock right now.
You don't try your hand. Like Drew Lock is not the answer. If Indy doesn't take it, fine. You're trying to build for Matt Ryan. But if you're Atlanta, you don't have the future in Marcus Mariota. I think he'll be solid for a couple of years. Guess what you can do? Develop a guy in a couple of years. Atlanta has a bunch of picks in this round here. That's something you got to consider. I feel there has to be at least one taken.
Well, here I have another stat for you that I'm sure you don't know, jerk off. Only one quarterback was taken in the first 67 picks. That is the fewest taken at this point in the draft since 1988, when the first QB selected was number 68 overall.
68 overall. I don't
know. No. I'm not asking you. Okay. I'm just saying, like, that's again, what is going on in this draft is unprecedented. We literally haven't seen it in 22 years to have one quarterback in the first two rounds, but 34 years since this has happened. So again, it's I get it, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
And we are not going to see a quarterback go to Seattle because they have selected Abraham Lucas, offensive tackle from Washington State, with their pick. Now, I do have to give a special shout out to my friend Caleb, who's at work right now. He is a diehard Colts fan. He was begging for Malik Willis. I'm telling you, if there was somebody who was on the hype train early, Malik Willis, it was my friend Caleb. And I will just say this: if they take Malik Willis at this pick, number 73 overall, the 9th pick in the 3rd round, you might hear him from the state of Indiana exclaim in joy. If you're Indianapolis, let's see, right now they're saying their needs are wide receiver. Or no, they took wide receiver. So offensive tackle, tight end, inside linebacker, cornerback. Amon, what do you think?
If your needs inside linebacker, Nakobe Dean is available. I'm going to scream his name until you. So they have the 9th pick and the 13th pick. So they have 2 picks. So you have an opportunity to split. Who do you think is going to be off the board between the Falcons, the Broncos, and the Ravens? Which is the guy? I don't think Nakobe Dean gets by Baltimore. I'm going to be honest. I think they say if he's there, we're taking him. Because Baltimore's just that kind of team. They're just going to take him. Look, a quarterback here would make sense. Again, this is where we thought all the quarterbacks should be, right? We looked at Kenny Pickett. We looked at Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder. We said 3rd round, late 2nd round. That's perfect. So no one is going to knock anybody for taking a quarterback at this spot. At least in my opinion, no one is going to get knocked for it.
I want to address Andre's question here, but I want to read you a tweet from Albert Breer from the NFL Network. Also, a lot of questions on Georgia linebacker Nakobe Dean. It's straightforward. He had a laundry list of injuries in college: his ankle, his foot, his shoulder, his wrist, his pec/groin that he hurt before his pro day, which you brought up, Amon. Thank you. He may need pec surgery post-rookie year, and his knee has wear and tear. And being smaller magnifies all that. I mean, there's our answer. He's somebody that teams are afraid of going after because they don't know if he's going to be able to stay on the field. And this is not the first Georgia player that's come out of there with some issues, some health issues. Yeah. The Colts, in fact, did not take a quarterback. They took Jelani Woods, tight end from Virginia. So trying to help out Matt Ryan in that offense. Andre, let's address your question here. Do you guys think we'll see another quarterback go soon? I mean, that's the question. We keep talking about it. I mean, for now, I guess we can put the Nakobe Dean talk aside, and whoever takes him will take him. But, I mean, let's look at the picks here. We have Atlanta on the board now. Maybe. Denver, no. Baltimore, highly unlikely. Although them taking Malik Willis would definitely be a fly in the ointment of Lamar Jackson. I think we can agree. We have the Colts again. Maybe. The Browns, no. The Chargers, no. The Texans, maybe. The Giants, maybe. The Falcons, again. We do have a quarterback. Breaking news.
Wow.
Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati goes to the Atlanta Falcons in the 3rd round. So Malik Willis still on the board, but Desmond Ridder, Amon, you have been on this. What do you think of this matchup?
I thought Desmond Ridder, watching his tape, Very accurate. Always goes to the right spot. He can play quarterback. There's no question. With Malik Willis, you're asking, can he actually play quarterback?
Mhm.
Desmond Ridder can play quarterback. The question for Desmond Ridder coming into the NFL is going to be, can you get the ball down the field to the outside? You're going to see a lot of teams, once he first gets in there, they're going to play him a lot like Kansas City played Jordan Love, where they brought pressure from the middle and dared him to throw to the outside. That's my one concern for him. But when you talk about a guy who can understand a system, figure it out quickly, and just makes the right reads consistently, that's Desmond Ridder. So again, it's just the arm talent part. Can he get that piece working? If he can, this is going to be a good player for Atlanta.
Well, yeah, I mean, and obviously Andre's excited. He's yelling Ritter. Interesting. It's definitely very interesting because, like you said, I mean, that's two teams we've seen who've signed veteran quarterbacks to 2-year minimum money deals. We saw Pickett go with Trubisky in Pittsburgh, and now we've seen Mariota going with Ritter in Atlanta. Let's look at Atlanta's draft. Drake London, which our good friend Tony called in our mock draft. Number 8 overall. They took Arnold. Oh, man. What can you do it?
Arnold, Jesus.
Abekete.
I'm gonna go with
Defensive end out of Penn State. Troy Anderson, inside linebacker from Montana State. With their 2 second-round picks, and now they take Desmond Ridder in the 3rd. Again, Atlanta, we knew it was going to be a process. They were going to have to rebuild this team. 2nd year by Arthur Smith. Is it Terry Fontenot's their GM, I think?
I believe so.
Terry Fontenot. So again, 2nd year GM. So they're building through the draft. They traded Matt Ryan. This is why you trade, to get these assets in the 2nd, 3rd round, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks. That's where you build the meat of your team. Quick question, because he was just drafted. Does Desmond Ridder see the field this year at all?
I don't think he does, nor do I think he should. Again,
Okay.
He is very accurate. He's a guy who will take to the playbook very, very quickly. But it's going to be a question of the arm talent down the field. You got to keep getting him into rhythm, getting him into things. Again, Marcus Mariota is good enough for a year. I think Desmond Ridder in a year from now is going to get a kind of a feel for it. You'll see him. I'm interested to see him in preseason, how he adjusts to it, because that's the thing for me. Teams are going to come at him in the regular season, blitz heavy up the middle, dare him to throw it outside into tight windows. And can he do it? I don't know, but he's always been very good at picking the right guy to throw to. And that's something that we know translates to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Again, I think we will see him on the field. Number one, just because I don't think Mariota can stay healthy for 17 games.
That's true.
So, I mean, I could just see Ridder being in there as a whatever. I think Mariota knows that he's on borrowed time. Again, I could see Kenny Pickett taking it from Mason Rudolph. I think Ridder could have it fall into his lap from Mariota. I'm not sure he's going to be able to take the job from Mariota the same way that I think Pickett could take it from Trubisky. Does that sound right?
No, that makes a lot of sense. And also, he is a dual threat guy. So Arthur Blank's going to love having that kind of guy with Mariota. And then if Ridder gets on the field, it's kind of the same kind of system, you're just plugging and playing.
And we saw Arthur Smith do that with Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he likes guys who can move. Like, there's a type of quarterback that he likes. I mean, size is a different thing, but again, when it comes to being able to run and throw, that's something that Arthur Smith definitely likes. Just had another pick here. Christian Harris, the inside linebacker from the University of Alabama, goes to the Houston Texans. Again, the Texans, let's look at them real quick, what they've done. They're another team I look at and I'm just like, wow, I kind of like what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Let me pull it up here. Houston. Boom. They take Derek Stingley Jr., 3rd overall, with their other first-round pick at 15, Kenyon Green, the offensive guard from Texas A&M. Jalen Petrie. Is it Petrie?
I believe it's Petrie, yeah.
Safety from Baylor, which I think was somebody you liked also, right?
Yeah, I talked about him. I didn't have him taken. I had the Penn State safety, but yeah, I talked about him being an option at safety that flies around the ball, plays really well, and I think can fit in a Lovie Smith scheme.
And then they take John Mechie III from Alabama.
Love it.
And then Christian Harris, inside linebacker from Alabama. So they are definitely staying in the Southern schools. LSU, Texas A&M, Baylor, double dip in Alabama. Houston keeping it in the family, so to say. I got to say, looking at that top to bottom, we don't know how these guys are going to play. I really like that draft.
Yeah,
and there's not – go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the draft is good. There's no doubt about what Houston's done. I think, for a lot of the teams that usually draft pretty poorly, they've used their picks very, very well. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Again, will all these players pan out? Probably not. But you look at it, say they made the right pick pretty much at every point in time, and you're not going to knock them down the line for these kinds of picks.
No, absolutely. Again, this is another team. We don't know what the future holds. Is Davis Mills the long-term answer? We don't know. Is Lovie Smith the long-term answer? Probably not. We don't know. We know Nick Caserio is going to be there for a while. But when you look at 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, and all 5 of those guys could possibly contribute, with the exception of Mechie, depending on his physical stuff, maybe later in the season, then this is a draft you walk away from and you go, yeah. I really like that. Like, they're getting guys who are going to contribute in the next 2 years to me, and most of them in the first year.
And that's the great part about it. You have a lot of holes. All right, we're going to fill all these holes. Brilliant.
Mm-hmm. And that's the job. Like, it really is. And everybody has a different way of building their team and stuff like that. But again, I really like what Houston is doing. And it's not this big gap where you see, like, okay, you have the first overall, like these huge gaps, like 2 picks in the second, 2 picks in the third. Well, this is what you do. You go get those guys. Like, you have to do it. And I'll tell you what, Lovie Smith has to love that they're getting these defensive guys. He really has to. I mean, I think that he's more of just kind of a placeholder. I think that he was kind of just forced to take that job in some ways. I shouldn't say he was forced, but Houston was kind of put in a position where they couldn't get who they wanted, and it was like, okay, Lovie Smith's there, and let's do it. But I mean, they're at least giving him players to compete. Like, they're not just picking guys that are 2-3 years away and saying, good luck, Lovie, you're not going to be here when they do. Like, they're going for impact players. Absolutely
going for impact players. And again, whoever's going to be the coach, I think for Lovie Smith now saying, look, I can still coach. If you give me pieces defensively, we're going to be good. Is Davis Mills the answer? We don't know, but you're building up one side of the ball, and I think, if you can just keep stacking players, good players, and keep stacking good people, you're going to build a team somewhere. I think for Houston, you got to have a whole factory reset, and that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something I want to talk to you real quick. We're going to finish up here soon, but there's something I want to look at, because it got me thinking. Some of the top tackles in the draft that we're taking, we're looking at, of course, Ike Mekwonu. We're looking at Evan Neal specifically. I want to ask you about these guys. And actually, we can even talk about Charles Cross. All 3 of those teams have established tackles. We saw last year the Giants take Andrew Thomas in the top 10. We saw the Carolina Panthers pay Tyler Moton last year to be their right tackle, presumably. And then also, even with Charles Cross in Seattle, we have Dwayne Brown, who's older, but wants money and makes a decent amount of money. It seems that teams aren't afraid to draft tackles, even if they don't specifically slide into that left tackle spot right away. Do you think that's a good thing? Does that worry you some? What's your thoughts on that specifically?
I think that really good left tackles are hard to come by. Or tackles in general. I think tackle is a very tough position to get right. And if you get it right, you talk about guys like Andrew Whitworth. You talk about, the Joe Thomases of the world, where they are going to be an anchor for a team for 13 years. And it's just what it is. And a day in, day out, they're going to be there. So to get those kinds of guys, Carolina's always struggled with their offensive line work. To get Ike in there, to go ahead, they got a guard in free agency to get the tackle last year. That's perfect. And I think if there's a place that I don't mind teams trying to take more of, it's offensive line, because as much as we give quarterbacks the credit in the world, as they should, I think it's the hardest position in all the sports. It all starts down there in the trenches. You don't give your quarterback 3 seconds to process or 2 seconds to process, you're not going anywhere. You don't give a hold for your running back, they're not going anywhere. So we can talk about, all these skill players. I think it all starts right there in the trenches. And I don't mind teams trying to go and take the extra tackles and things like that.
Yeah, which kind of makes me, again, like, you see these 3 teams in the top 15 do this. Like, I mean, they just did. But then nobody brought up the fact that even though Jacksonville signed Cam Robinson to a 3-year, $54 million deal the day before the draft, while you couldn't take Evan Neal, while you couldn't take Icky, while you couldn't take, Charles Cross, like, why couldn't you? Because these teams, I mean, the Giants invested in the last 2 years 2 top 10 picks in offensive tackles.
Mhm.
And most people said, including me, that the Giants were one of the winners from day one of the draft. So why couldn't Jacksonville talk themselves into it? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
Because I mean, I would have taken Neal. Personally, I would have taken Neal.
Yeah. I don't think you could have gone wrong with either tackle. I think both are going to be very, very good tackles in the upcoming future. So for me, I was very much on the bandwagon of, yeah, why not? Why at least consider? You have to at least think about, yeah, if we get a right tackle or a left tackle, whatever tackle we want, you're giving Trevor Lawrence a guy that he can work with for 13 years if he hits. And these two guys look like they're going to hit. And it's not like they took a guy they know is going to hit anyway. They took, a guy with a lot of upside, but a pretty low floor, pretty unproven guy anyway. So
absolutely,
it's an interesting balance here.
I heard somebody years ago talk about players like Trayvon Walker. We're going to get to the pick here in just a moment. They call them trapdoor players because they look like they should, be fine, that they're on solid ground, that they're going to be good players. But at any moment, the trapdoor can fall underneath them and they could just go down and then you never hear from them again. Like they're just not the players that you thought they were. We see that a lot of times. And I think that is the concern with players like that. Baltimore, again, another team having a really good draft. They take the defensive tackle out of Uconn, Travis Jones. Again, somebody I'm not sure a lot of people expected in the third round, maybe a second round pick. I thought into the first was a little much playing for that bad Uconn team. But I mean, look at their picks. We have Kyle Hamilton at 14, Tyler Linderbaum at 25, David Ajabo at second round, 13th overall pick. 13th pick in the round, and now Travis Jones. So they are definitely rebuilding that defense, but they are getting nasty physical players, which is what you think of when you think of Baltimore, right?
Yeah, exactly that. They getting players that kind of fit what you think of Baltimore. You think of Ray Lewis, you think of Ed Reed, two guys that are going to come down there and hit the crap out of you. Haloti Ngata. And this is a guy who can have that kind of impact, right? One-on-one, he was just a bulldozer at the defensive tackle position, could get to the quarterback, stop the run. And so I think Brandon Williams, their current defensive tackle, is going to be a free agent, and he is a veteran as well. So to get a guy like this, get 1 year under Brandon, and then boom, plug and play, that's a great pickup. And the value here is brilliant.
Absolutely. The Colts help solidify that offensive line in front of Matt Ryan. Take offensive tackle from Central Michigan, Bernard Raymond. Again, another guy I kind of heard as a riser. A lot of people like 6'6", 303. God, these guys
good
are
in the run
bigger,
game.
but
He's just great in the run game, which it just fits for them. If they want to play an extra tackle, boom, there you go.
Absolutely. Not a problem at all, especially with Jonathan Taylor, the way he ran the ball last year.
Yep.
I'll tell you what. How about we stick around for the Giants pick here at 17, because we know Cleveland's not taking a quarterback. We know the Chargers aren't. We know Denver's not. We know Atlanta's not now. Philly more than likely no. Pittsburgh no. New England no. The Raiders no. The Cardinals no. So why don't we stick around for this pick right here and see what happens, and then we'll get out of here. How's that sound?
Let's do it, man. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued with what New York has to offer.
Yeah, and not only intrigued by what New York has to offer, but Cleveland here again. I mean, they took a defensive back, with their first pick. There's still some linebackers there, obviously. Player we've talked about, Nakobe Dean available. The Chargers, the Broncos. So I'm interested to see what happens. You know what? Another team I want to look at while we're sitting here. I want to look at the Chargers. How about that? I want to look at what the Chargers have done because I remember, but I want to make sure. Yeah, they took guard Zion Johnson, and then they didn't have a second-round pick. I think that was for the Khalil Mack trade, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So right now, all they have is offensive guard from Boston College, Zion Johnson. So again, this seems like a team that is ready to take the next step. That's the way they're trending. So if you're them, where do you go here? Let's look at some of the best available.
I mean, to me, it's just whoever's the highest thing on your board. Again, Nakobe Dean, the injury history. Okay, fine. We take him off the board. Take all the quarterbacks off the board. Offensively, I like what you have. Do you go another tackle? Do you go in that direction? Do you try to get a tight end after losing Hunter Henry? The UCLA had a tight end. I think it's Greg Duicic. I believe that's his name. That I think is still available. So do you go there? Do you try to go get a receiver? The man out of Boise State is still available. So there's a lot of options you could go here. I just think it's whatever. I don't think there's a need-based thing here. It's who's the best player on this board. We're just going to go take him because we're ready to win now. And the more great players we can have, the better.
Yeah, Cleveland just took outside linebacker Alex Wright. Right now, it's showing the Chargers their needs: offensive tackle, tight end, as you spoke of, inside linebacker, and D end. So, I mean, offensive tackle. Let's look at what they're showing here for best available. Daniel Fiale from Minnesota, Rasheed Walker. I mean, I'm sure these guys are fine. Tight end. Let's pull up the tight ends. The one, Greg Dulcich. Is that it? Dulcich. That's the one you talked about. Yeah. Jeremy Ruckert. Some of you people have talked about, possibly being a third round pick in here, depending on what you like. Inside linebacker again. We've
talked about him
of the need. But if you're concerned about him, you still have Leo Chanel there. Channing Tindall, another inside linebacker from Georgia. These guys, have played a lot. I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do here.
Yeah, it's intriguing because, again, they can go in any direction. There's not, to me, one glaring need when you talk about LA or even Cleveland. To me, there's not this glaring thing that I look at. So with LA, again, they can go in any which direction. I think whoever's that best player on the board, they're going to go with. This might be one of the picks that take a little bit longer to get out there because they could go in any direction. They might be taking calls for it as well.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we haven't had a trade in a while that I've seen. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded the pick, because with having such a large gap between first and third, maybe you move back, try and pick up like a fourth or a fifth rounder. Again, the thing we keep hearing about this class, it's so deep, it's so deep, it's so deep. Well, these are the parts where really the good teams are going to find value. And we've even seen that in the third round. I mean, if we look at some of our picks and the way they match up, Tennessee taking Petit Frere there, at tackle. Another one we liked was
Chad Muma, even to Jacksonville.
Chad Muma, to Jacksonville, tag teaming the inside line or the inside linebacker. Christian Harris going to Houston. We just talked about, Travis Jones to Baltimore. Again, the rich getting richer. So it's not. Again, there's reasons why you have good teams and why you have bad teams, and it's really the third, the fourth, and even the fifth round where you're going to see these teams try and get the value. And if you look at the teams that had a lot of day two picks, it was New England. It was some of these teams where it was like, there's a reason they keep going after these guys because they're trying to build depth. We got a few more picks here. Like I said, we got the Chargers, the Broncos, and then we're going to finish up with the Giants here. Again, we've given a lot of flowers out. We talk about a lot of the good stuff, but what's a team that you're just not crazy about their draft right now? We can take a look. So give me a team that you want to look at that you're just kind of like, I'm not sure how I feel about them.
I mean, Dallas to me is a front runner in that, they take Tyler Smith up top. And then honestly, I can't remember who they took after Dallas Smith.
Well, after Tyler Smith, they took Sam Williams, the outside linebacker from Ole Miss. But apparently he's somebody who's also had some off-the-field issues.
That's what I just read as well. So, again, I can see why you're tempted in it. I just feel there's a lot of question marks with a lot of the players they've picked. To me, I think there was better options at the positions that they had as well. So, I just think, for me, Dallas, it feels very Dallas-y where it's just like, it's just what we think. They're a little bit different than the rest of the NFL. To me, I'm not crazy about what they've done so far in this draft.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's one of those teams, like, I feel like they should get a bad grade, but then they go take George Pickens, the wide receiver out of Georgia, that a lot of people liked. And I'm kind of like, now I need to kind of bump them up a little bit,
Yeah, no, it's tough because I don't think there's truly a team that's looked out here and you said, that's an awful pick. Like, you can say Kenny Pickett's a bad pick, but it's because you don't believe in who Kenny Pickett will end up being, right? I don't think there's anything here that I say this was a bad pick. That's a great part about this draft. Maybe one of the better drafts we've seen, that there isn't this bad pick.
Yeah, again, head scratching pick. Look at the New England Patriots. A pick you don't like, okay, whatever. Looks like we have the Chargers. They kept their pick. They take J.T. Woods, the safety out of Baylor. Baylor getting a little bit of run here for a team I didn't think was like super great last year. They've got a couple second and third round picks in there. Again, what do you think of him? 6'2", 195.
He's versatile. That's what I remember from him at Baylor. He can play in the box, outside the box. So again, we talked about it with Cincinnati, right? Just getting more depth, and you play 4 safeties, 3 safeties, whatever coverages you wanted to play. That's the kind of thing I think he allows the Chargers to do, where you have your 2 corners in Asante Samuel and J.C. Jackson. If you want to go and play, Derwin James is that guy, but he's always hurt. So this is a guy who can fill in that depth portion of it. And when he's on the field, JT can put another position. You can play like an extra linebacker type of deal with him.
And Derwin James just doesn't play straight safety. I mean, he doesn't. Like he plays linebacker, he plays safety, he plays all that. So it's kind of like when you say, well, how's he going to play with Derwin James? Well, Derwin James can play with anybody because he basically switches positions. He's really what Jamal Adams is supposed to be. If Jamal Adams had the instincts of Derwin James, or if Derwin James had the health mostly of Jamal Adams, they'd both be really good players. But right now, they're an overpaid player in Jamal Adams and a player who just can't quite get to that next level in Derwin James because of the health issues. So
do we see tight end here with Denver? You lose Noah Fant. Do you go and take tight end here?
I could absolutely. Well, you know
there
what?
You go.
Perfect segue, because they just took your guy, Greg Dulcich, from UCLA. So yeah, I mean, it made a lot of sense. I was thinking maybe Ruckert for them, but Dulcich makes a lot of sense. Again, 6'4", 243, long arms. He's absolutely what you want for that Denver offense. They want pass catchers. I think they're going to try and run the ball some, but they want pass catchers, and that's what Dulcich does.
Yep, and he works in the middle of the field tremendously. Excellent route runner, and get a lot of hands catches, and he's a big body. So again, I think he fits a lot with what Denver's trying to do. Again, you lose Noah Fant. You might not get Noah Fant back, but it's a pretty decent way to get a tight end in your system.
Well, let's not forget Noah Fant was a first-round draft pick. So if you're getting a guy to replace him in the 3rd round, I'm okay with that, because let's be honest, the tight end in Denver since Julius Thomas left hasn't always been the focal point of their offense. We've seen what they've done with wide receivers. We've seen the investments in not only the draft picks, but the contracts that they've handed out for wide receivers. So if you're getting your number 1 quote unquote tight end in the 3rd round, I'm fine with that. Fine with that. George Patton and them in Denver have done a really good job. All right, we are to our last pick of the night, because I am old and I need some sleep. But we are, you know what? And it's already over. Boy, I did all that build up. The New York Giants take Cordell Flott, LSU cornerback. So again, no quarterbacks for the Giants. They are going all in on Daniel Jones and seeing what they have, at least for now. What do you think of the pick?
He's good in coverage, turns the hips well. He's going to be good press corner, and they needed one. I still think that, I think he has small hands. That's kind of the one big thing about him. And he's not really a tremendous tackler down the field. He's more of like, I'm going to latch onto you and hopefully I just drag you kind of down. But that's just what it looks like when I see him tackle. I'm just going to be honest with you. So, I think he can be very good in a system here, but with pairing him with Kyle Hamilton's big, I think he can work really well in his own scheme. So I like what I see out of Cordell, or at least for the Giants, you feel a need.
Yep, absolutely. Before we go, I want you to give me who the next quarterback off the board is and where they go. And then we are getting out of here.
All right.
It doesn't even have to be in the 3rd round if you don't think.
Man, I'm just scrolling through who has picks left, and really there isn't a team that jumps out as quarterback needy. Detroit and Washington are 2 places.
97 and 98. I just saw that.
And even then, I'm not sure.
Can I give you a surprise?
Go for it.
It's a surprise. Right here. Pick 102.
I was just looking at it.
Miami. If one of those guys drops to you, whether it's Malik or whether it's, again, Matt Corral or somebody like that, like, if you're high on them and you're not sure Tua is the guy, it's not going to cost you much to bring in a 3rd round rookie quarterback. I'm just saying. We've seen so many teams move on from, first round quarterbacks much sooner than they used to. So, there's that. I guess we could talk about the next pick real quick. D'Angelo Malone, outside linebacker for Western Kentucky, selected by the Atlanta Falcons. So Atlanta, again, trying to build up both sides of the ball, offense and defense, taking an outside linebacker to help. Amin, is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here? I'm going to close this out.
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question. 104. Yep. LA gets their first pick.
Ooh.
They go quarterback.
Ooh.
And they go Matt Corral. I know you're not crazy about Matt Corral, but here's why they go Matt Corral. Big arm, makes all the plays, can make moves with his feet, and runs RPOs, and is a very good play action quarterback. To me, it's a fit. Not saying they are definitely going to do it, but that's an intriguing spot to me. LA, Stafford is not your long-term answer in terms of 5-6 years. How much longer is he going to be in the NFL? You can develop Matt for 3-4 years. And if he works, he works. If not, okay, it costs you the 104th overall pick. I'm okay.
Yeah. I mean, they did sign Stafford to a big extension, but we know how that can go, at the end, especially with they cut guys. And we've seen guys sign huge extensions, guys like, Russell Wilson sign extensions and be gone. Carson Wentz twice, sign big extensions and be gone. So it's not out of their own possibility. I don't hate that. I'm gonna plant mine Malik Willis to Miami.
All right.
I think they're just gonna look and they're gonna say, listen, we've got Tyreek Hill. Let's get a big arm quarterback and see how it goes.
I would just be concerned on how that affects Tua. Kind of, what Deshaun Watson did to Tua, and it shouldn't affect you if he's already in the building. But I don't know.
But if you're that guy, I mean, it's it.
That guy,
you got to be that guy. You got to have some swagger. You've got to have some attitude, and that's just the way it is. Well, Amin, thank you so much for doing this. This was a blast. I'd actually not been able to do this. My daughter got sick. We couldn't go to the father-daughter dance. So, unfortunately, I had to miss out on that. So, she's up snuggling on the couch. So, I'm going to go spend some time with them. Thank you for tuning in. If you rewatch this, thank you for following along in the second round and all of our Nakobe Dean talk. See where he goes. I'm Joe McDonald. That's Amin Patel. Don't forget to check us out Wednesday nights with our good friend, our normal host, Tony Hollinsworth, on Jawing and Balling, 8 Eastern Standard Time on the All Sports All Plays Network. Make sure you check out the plethora of shows on All Sports All Plays. Sunday mornings, you have the Touchdown Crew. Right now, you got Fast Break going on, talking about the NBA, so you can switch over to that if you want. Again, the morning shows Monday through Friday at 10 Eastern Standard Time. The new WNBA show on Wednesday nights competing with us, but we're not afraid. We're strong. We're powerful. We're going to take them down. I'm just kidding. Don't forget to watch the Sports Senseis. Again, all kinds of great shows. Go check out Amin's podcast, the Amin Patel Sports News Podcast. You can come check me out on the Out of Bounds podcast, Out of Bounds with a Z. Everybody, enjoy the rest of the draft. Enjoy tonight. Enjoy tomorrow, rounds 4 through 7. And I can't wait for the Patriots to draft Nakobe Dean in the 5th round. All right.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.